Question number 11, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Education. How long will boards of trustees of the schools she proposes to close or merge...
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Seriously, with respect to the standards of this House, surely you can't let a minister get up and start swearing like he just did. That's not really acceptable in this Parliament, surely.
Order, I think it's better not to draw attention to some of these things. The Minister has withdrawn and apologised. Chris Hipkins.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to hold over my question until such time as the Minister of Education is available to answer it.
Order. The member can seek leave. Order. A point of order is being heard. He started his question, was interrupted by a point of order. Now he's raised a point of order to seek leave to have his question held over. Is there any objection? There is objection. The Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Education. How long will boards of trustees of the schools she proposes to close or merge in Christchurch have to consult with their local communities before they are required to provide feedback to her ahead of a final decision?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, the boards of trustees will have 50 working days from the 28th of September, when they receive their letters, until the 7th of December to consult with their local communities.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, have any of the schools proposed for closure or merger approached her asking for an extension of time so that they can report back to her after the 7th of December deadline she has set? And if so, has she allowed them that extra time?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, I understand that the Aranui and the Hallsville clusters asked the Minister for an extension, and the Minister decided that the time frame for individual schools, those that are proposed to be merged or closed, will remain the same, and that timeline of December the 7th remains, but consultation for clusters of schools is an ongoing process that is not linked to the legislative process and proposals that schools are undertaking about mergers and closures. So that is a separate process.
Chris Hipkins.
Question, Mr Speaker, how can clusters of schools engage with their local communities in a meaningful way about what education in the area might look like if one or more of the schools in that cluster is already formally the subject of a merger or closure consultation process and others are not?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, I understand that these are two separate processes, and the discussions around the clusters of schools involve more than just... all the schools are involved in clusters, and so they are about more than just individual proposals to merge or close schools.
Supplementary question.
Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, if one of the clusters of schools presents her after the 7th of December with a proposal that involves not closing or merging one of the schools that she had already concluded consulting on the closure or merger of, will she therefore reopen the formal consultation for those schools?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, I can only repeat what the Minister said in the House yesterday, which is that she is keen to listen to the view of parents and the school communities, and she will take, along with them, the time that it will take. All of us, she said, are interested in getting this right and getting in place the best possible education system for the greater Christchurch region.
That's right. Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, I asked the Minister a very specific question about whether she would reopen the consultation, and she hasn't addressed that matter.
That was really the heart of the question, was whether in the ongoing consultation with the clusters, if a school that was to be merged or closed and therefore dealt with already, supposedly according to the timelines, could consultation around that merger or closure be reopened? I think that was the heart of the question, Honourable Anne Tolley.
And I understood that, Mr Speaker, but I think the Minister's words make it very clear that she is open to ongoing discussions with those schools. So she's saying she will take, along with them, the time that it will take. So she is making it very clear that she is willing to listen and talk with schools about the proposals and the way ahead.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, the issue that we have is that under the Education Act, I'm sure you're familiar, there is a legislative process around formal consultation with those schools, the deadline for which the Minister has set as the 7th of December. The question that I've asked her is whether if those clusters of schools come up with an alternative proposal that comes to a different outcome to the one that she had already concluded the formal consultation on, would she go back and reopen that formal consultation process? And the Minister's answer still hasn't addressed that matter.
If the Minister can help, it would be very helpful.
I'm not sure that I
Tolley.
can help, Mr Speaker, because the Minister's answers can only be within the limits, are confined by the legislative process. So the Minister can only answer within the limits that legislation puts in place.
Seems that point of order, Chris Hipkins.
That's exactly the point, Mr Speaker, but she hasn't actually addressed the issue. Within the legislative process, once the schools have made their submissions, under the legislative process as it is now, that has to be in by the 7th of December, and I've asked her whether she'd consider reopening it.
I think, in fairness, the Minister's been pressed on, the member's made quite clear what he's after, but the Minister is answering on behalf of the Minister, and I think it's probably unreasonable to expect the Minister answering on behalf of the Minister to be able to give the House that particular detail about matters beyond the 7th of December. I think it's probably unreasonable to press further on that.
Question.
I think the members' party's used its allocation of 22 supplementary questions today. No, I think they've all been used. Question number 12, Catherine Delahunty.